Take a trip to Insanity Island.
Whoa.
We're back, baby. We're back, baby.
Insanity Island, it's insane. Whoa. Okay, big week to discuss here. We've got current events to talk about. We have arts and culture to talk about. We have sports to talk about. We have just a variety of entertaining topics to talk about. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's start it off. The big news, the big leading news story of the week was the Memphis police. Apparently, they got a little violent. They got a little violent with they apprehended a person who was apparently, I don't know if he was speeding or what it was, but he did get beaten and he did die in the hospital. It's a very, very tragic. But what does this say about our current policing environment? And do these police officers, because one of the police officers did claim that he was going for his gun. Okay. So at what point do police have the right to severely restrain someone? I ask you, Chris Pendarvis.
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters if it shows him going for the gun. There are people out there saying this is still white supremacy.
But all the police officers in question were black.
Right, but they're police officers. That makes them the bad guy, no matter what happens, no matter what the video shows. You know what my favorite case of this kind of thing was? Richard, you might know this. When all the craziness was going on about a year and a half ago, my favorite protest was 3 black people, a girl and 2 guys, having an argument. One of the men pulls a gun out and shoots and kills the other guy. Freaks the girl out. She gets on to the cops. They show up. They're chasing this. He just murdered another black man. I thought they cared about black lives. So they chase him. He shoots himself.
What, the criminal shoots himself?
The black guy with the gun shot himself after he just murdered somebody, a black man, and they kind of corner him, so he shoots himself. And they blame white supremacy for that. And they rioted.
Okay, it does seem rather odd.
Come on, that's funny. Oh my God.
They're blaming white supremacy when it was all the black officers involved in this latest dispute in Memphis. They were all 5 were black. Yep. 4 of the 5 that were for potential murder. I guess it kind of remains to be seen if those actual charges, if the district attorney is gonna go through with those charges. But Richard, let me ask you this question, because it's very tragic. No one likes to see anyone die, okay, when they've been apprehended by the police, particularly over a traffic stop. But at what point do the police have the right to defend themselves when someone they've stopped is going for their gun?
Well, I don't think we know he was going for the gun. I think I don't mean to be overly cynical, but I saw the videos probably like you guys did. So Tyree Nichols is the guy's name. He gets pulled over for reckless driving. That was actually the charge. And they immediately were yanking this guy out of his car and immediately, beating the crap out of him.
But I thought he kept going. I didn't do anything. No. I'm going to resist. I'm going to tell you no. I'm not going to get out of the car.
Yeah. Richard, was he resisting?
I don't know. I didn't see that. I'm not saying he didn't do that. He did run away, but that was after they beat him. And so he basically flees and gets pretty close to his house. I think he was like less than half a mile away from his home. And another couple of policemen catch him again. And then the crew all show back up again and just start unloading on the guy. I mean, you see them kicking him.
And they need to go to jail.
Not just punching him, but they were like pulling out batons and, it was a Rodney King thing kind of all over again. Maybe not quite that bad, but
except the Rodney King thing was justified. Sorry, but it was.
Well,
it is different in the. I know what you're saying though. The way it looked in the beating, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm saying this is because I hear the media comparing it to Rodney King. And I'm like, no, Rodney King was going 120 miles an hour in the middle of Atlanta onto the freeway.
Los Angeles. Los Angeles.
No, it was in Atlanta, wasn't it?
No,
Yeah,
no,
that
no,
was
no. Rodney King was in Los Angeles.
Oh, wait. No, they rioted in Atlanta. Never mind. They rioted everywhere after that. Now it's in Atlanta. He went off the freeway, wrecked, got out of the car, charged the cops massively high on PCP. They first tased him. He wouldn't go down. Tased him again. He got back up when he did go down, kept charging them, lunged for the cops. They started to hit him to get him down. Legally, they could have probably shot him at that point.
Look, I think at this point.
No, what I'm saying, what you said was accurate. I'm talking about how the media was trying to go, look, it's exactly the same thing, which it's not exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
What happened to this guy, they just beat the out of nowhere. Where Rodney King was attacking and
now, Pendo, before we rush to judgment on these police officers, I think it's important to understand that this entire episode took over an hour. Okay, we saw, and what the whole world has seen is basically a 30-second to 1 minute clip. Okay, right, we don't know what happened the rest of those 59 minutes. We don't know if the guy was charging the police. We don't know if he was talking back to the police. And sure, of course, you should never be beaten to death for talking back to the police. But we don't know if the guy charged towards one of his guns, like we've heard. One of the police officers was recorded saying he went for my gun.
Yeah, okay, they could have talked about that later. So, however, you know what I have learned?
They're being charged for murder. So what I will say is a couple of things that, you know, facts matter, right? So it's 5 African American police, a police chief who's African American, who actually was fired from the city of Atlanta. So there's kind of a connection with all of us. He was fired from APD. Their mayor is African American, and the city itself is 65% black. Memphis is a very, and frankly, you know, it's a rough city. Memphis is probably one of the more dangerous cities, if not the most dangerous city in America. Now, with that said, yeah, well, I mean, Memphis is pretty bad. It's up there. But Tyre Nichols died. I mean, and the video does. Here's what's troubling. Number one, they don't show them ever trying to handcuff him. That was sort of interesting that they seemed to be more interested in sort of pinning him down and hitting him than they were. Nobody pulled out their handcuffs. And I've heard, that's not me picking up on that, but those are police observers who have commented, I've seen on the news. The second thing is that none of them call for an ambulance or medical care during that hour that you talked about. That's not a good look either. Now, with that said, I mean, Tyre Nichols is fighting back, but then again, he's also getting literally the life beat out of him. So, you know,
the only thing I can understand why Tim would say what he says, though, because of one thing. I remember during I hate to say this, but George Floyd was not murdered by cops. He committed suicide by overdosing on fentanyl. He had 15 grams of fentanyl in his body. It only takes 7 to OD. And you can see him ingesting the stuff. And that was his dealer that he was meeting at the, to get it, while he was passing off fake money after he robbed a pregnant woman in her apartment. But what I'm saying is, they released the first video, and I saw it, and I thought, wow, those cops need to be shot in public. They need to be hung for this. But then I saw, months later, after the destruction, the second video came out. When they showed up, he was already starting to freak out because fentanyl gets you like that. It's not like acid or anything. It hits you immediately. He was starting to jitter around. He wouldn't cooperate. He was fighting with the cops. They finally got him. And from that moment, he started saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. That was never on the original videos. All you saw was him on the ground, knee on the cop had his knee on him, and him saying, I can't breathe. Well,
I might be on drugs myself because I swear I see little men floating behind you.
Hey, Chris,
I got to finish this. This is really important. when they got him and they finally were able to hold on to him, he was saying while he was standing up, I can't breathe, let me get in the car. They put him in the car, I can't breathe, let me out again. They let him out, I can't breathe, they put me on the ground. He said those words. They did it. Then he said again, I can't breathe. It's like, you know, at a certain point, you're just like, dude, don't know what to do for you. They immediately called for help. He died hours later at the hospital. And do you know what one of the main reasons you die from overdosing on fentanyl? It restricts your lungs, makes it where you can't breathe.
Yeah, I mean, Chris.
I've never seen that video before.
Chris, that's a
Chris.
That's a very good point. I think when we all saw those early short video clips of the George Floyd incident, there was an immediate rush to judgment against those police officers. Pretty much everyone. The same thing is happening here in this Memphis policing situation. And I'm only saying, look, we need to give time for the entire story to come out. Right now, we've only seen a small.
Right now, I think they need to go to jail. But I wouldn't be surprised if something else came out like, oh, here's another video.
They'll get their day in court. I mean, that's part. I think this is a case where the system has worked. They were caught on multiple videos. Some of them had body cams. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for body cams on all policemen for their own good.
I agree.
They were terminated based on the initial evidence. They were indicted really quickly, and they're going to go to court. And and that's the way the system should work, right? And if during the court hearing it comes out that they were innocent, then so be it. But I think what the common thread is, whether it's going years back to Rodney King or George Floyd, or in this case, Tyree Nichols, police training is critical, which is why it's so ironic that in the city of Atlanta, where we're trying to build a police training facility and a firefighter training facility, by the way, there are activists from Antifa and all over America coming here, shooting at policemen, trying to stop a facility meant for police training. And
they don't want that to happen. They just hate the country and want to destroy it. They don't have any care about the cops or what they're doing or whether they're good or bad. These are evil little white spoiled from the suburbs trust fund bastards.
Ironically, the protests in Atlanta where they burned police cars, attacked stores, looted, that was all under the guise of this guy was a hero and his picture was being put up saying, remember, I don't even want to say his name, but remember him. He literally shot a police officer and got what was coming to him when he did that. So
yeah. But my bigger.
Oh my God, wait, hold on. Something's happened with my ship. I gotta go out and check my ship. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh God, it's terrible.
What? Whoa. What are you talking about?
My ship was tearing up. I've got to go out and there I am.
Oh,
there, I fix my ship now.
Okay, there you are floating in space.
I'm gonna fix
so Chris, what the big picture, it's a very tragic death that occurred in Memphis, but my bigger picture point to all this is the urban decay that we're experiencing right now with all this police, war against the police, if you will, or blame the police. When are we going to start blaming the criminal? Okay, this kid was killed. It's horrible. It's terrible. What did he do? He must have done something to provoke those police officers. Police officers don't just pull people over for a traffic stop and drag them out of the car and beat them to death. I mean, there had to be something that occurred that we don't know yet that he provoked those police officers. Look, you don't provoke a police officer, period, end of story. I mean, we need to start fearing the police again. And I think that this lack of policing is leading to urban decay. And do you think that's the case? I ask you, Richard Sheffield.
Look, urban decay for sure. And this isn't a racial issue. It's not a black-white issue. It's, it's largely an economic issue. And the people that can afford, no matter what they are, to leave the cities will leave the cities when society breaks down. You know, when stores can't be, look at downtown San Francisco. It's not black on police crime. It's drug addicts, you know, defecating on the street, and building homeless cities on the beaches in California. I think people flee dangerous situations, and that's really the core root of it, is that you've got
well, look at the girl that was kidnapped in Memphis, put in a van and killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened in Memphis, what, 3 or 4 months ago? And you know, and now we have this, you know, I just think we don't have strong enough police, quite frankly.
Law and order has become synonymous with the word police, when in reality, law and order is a description of the fact that we should have a society governed by laws that result in order. And that's not what's happening in a lot of Democratic controlled cities across America.
That's exactly right. I mean, you know, I think a lot of people feel unsafe inside the city limits of just about every large American city right now. And it's because every time we have an incident where, you know, the police have to do their jobs and restrain someone, we're blaming the police. I mean, look what's happening in Memphis. Everyone's pretty much saying, lock them up, put those police in jail, put them on trial for murder. How is that going to solve the urban decay issue? I ask you, Chris Bendardis.
It won't.
Exactly. It won't. It'll just get worse and worse and worse. Okay. So that's the
police, though, have to, you have, in any profession, you have poorly trained, bad actors, and whether it's in sales, whether it's in astronaut, you know, people like you, Pendo, but it's you know, you've got bad actors, and frankly, I think what I think, if I had to put money down, what we're going to see here is that you had 5 or 6 policemen who were out of line, who exercised far greater force than was justified, and you know.
Well, Richard, it's so easy for us.
I'm willing to
sit back and judge these police officers for getting too. But you know what? You know what can happen if you're too gentle with these criminals? They turn around, they grab their gun, and they kill you. Okay, so these police officers have the hardest job, particularly in a rough city like Memphis. I mean, they have a very, very difficult, high-stress job. They're putting their lives on the line every day. And every time something happens where a criminal gets killed, we're all want to point our finger to the police and say, it's their fault. You know, I think this should be the opposite. I mean, I'm not saying this kid deserved to be killed or anything like that. I'm just saying during the process of policing, every now and again, if you resist, if you push back, you talk back, you're going to get killed. It's going to happen. Don't push back to the police. This kid would still be alive right now had he not provoked the police.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll see.
No. Okay, Richard, are you saying they pulled this kid over, dragged him out of his car, and beat him to death? I mean, is that what you think happened?
Well, he was resisting. He did not want to come out of the car, and he was telling them, "No, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." You know, eventually they have to take you out of the car. He was driving recklessly, supposedly. They should have video of that too. So
yeah, they don't. I'll say that.
This is where both of you are inaccurate. Both of you are coming at this from a point of view that the cities give a crap about doing anything correct. They are Democrats, and I'm not using this as hyperbole. This is why the border is wide open. They're trying to bring the system down so it collapses, then they can rebuild it in their little communist vision that they've got. They want problems. They definitely want stuff like, they would prefer to be white guys, but, you know, so it sets them back a little bit. But why do you think the border's wide open? They don't care that terrorists come in, that people with COVID come in, but damn, you better wear masks when you go to a restaurant. They don't give a damn.
Well, you know, to your point,
crap about this country.
To your point, every city that's having all these problems are run by Democrats. All of them. They're all run by Democrats, and they do a horrible job running the cities. They do a horrible job running the country.
Okay. Oh, by the way, who is it? They let all. Oh, did you hear about that Fox News reporter that got beat up on the bus?
No.
He's their weather guy.
I
And
didn't know that. Yeah.
these teenagers, girl teenagers, were beating up an old man. He tried to stop them, and they beat the crap out of him. Beat the crap. You see wounds all over.
Who's they that beat him up?
Gang of black girls. That's what it was. He was on the train. The black girls were messing with a white old man. He intervened and said, "Hey, leave the guy alone." They viciously beat him. And you know, guess what happened? New York dropped all charges.
Against the attackers.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, that's screwed up.
His face was really messed up. You could tell he got the crap kicked out of him. And they didn't even charge him.
Well, again, what you're going to see with this urban decay, you're going to see the same shift that occurred in the 1970s. They referred to it as white flight. Remember white flight in the 1970s?
Oh, yeah.
The same thing's going to happen again, except they're not going to call it white flight anymore. They're going to call it brain flight, because people with half a brains would not subject themselves, their wives, and their families to this kind of violence.
You mean like own business in Portland?
Yeah, I mean, look, who would want to live in a large American city these days inside the city limits? Now, I'm not talking about the suburbs. The suburbs are safe. The Atlanta suburbs are safe, but I'm talking about in the city limits. Why? To get a brick?
Yeah, but you know
imposed on your head? I mean, because that's what will happen eventually.
Yeah, the problem is it's never going to be fixed then, because the same idiots that voted for these people are going to move to better areas and bring their voting record with them, because they were stupid enough to vote for people who promised them everything. And we're going to get revenge on the people you don't like and things like that. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you. They're going to vote like that. They're just going to bring their crap with them.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, but it's not looking good for American cities. Okay, next topic. TikTok is in the news. TikTok is very popular. It's probably the number one most popular app among people under the age of 25. Is that fair to say, Richard? Is that fair to say?
It's up there for sure. I mean, that's Snap, and you know, it's under 25-year-olds are not using Facebook or Twitter. You know,
no, they're on TikTok. So the United States Congress next week is voting to ban TikTok in the United States. Why? Because TikTok is a
no, they already did it. It's going into effect.
No, I think they're voting on it.
Yeah,
I thought they already did that.
No. So Trump wanted to ban it, but he couldn't get the votes back then. But it's coming up again. So the reason is because it's a Chinese app, and the concern is that China can easily spy on us with these TikTok apps out there. So I ask you, Chris Pendarvis, should the United States Congress ban TikTok? Yes or no?
Should have banned it years ago. They're literally spying on us with it. It's spyware from them. As a matter, I mean, it's known fact, because the company that puts it out is half owned by the Communist Party. That's their deal, and they've proven this with record. They do traces and stuff. You know, we're just as smart as they are. We can figure out what's happening, and when we figured that out, the only people that agreed to keep it going were the Democrats, because they want to bring the freaking country down. I hate to keep saying that, but look what's happening. You know, what a white cop defends himself. He has to, and they call that white supremacy. White supremacy everywhere. It's dividing the country, divide. That's their whole deal, and it's in the Communist Manifesto to do that, and to use entertainment.
No, nowhere in the Communist Manifesto does it say anything about TikTok.
I mean,
Karl Marx.
Richard, I ask you, Richard, you're a First Amendment guy. You're a freedom of speech guy. Do you think that TikTok should be banned?
I think that no, I don't, but maybe. I don't see the data, right? So I don't really know enough about the fact that there is a lot of across the board, not partisan concern, frankly, on the part of college campuses who are starting to ban TikTok, on the part of state and local governments who have been banning TikTok from their devices. And so this was a Republican bill actually introduced by Josh, is that Josh Hawley out of Missouri?
He's a Republican, but there's a Democrat out of either Virginia or West Virginia that strongly opposes TikTok.
Well, a lot do. So Josh Hawley introduced the Senate bill, which I think was being introduced now, and then on the House side, there's a committee vote that's going to happen. So the House committee is voting on this too. So if it is true that the Chinese Communist Party is mining devices for economic credit cards and all sorts of things that they can exploit, then it should be banned.
Richard, I can prove it to you. All you have to do, there's a house in Delaware that has a Corvette in it, and there's all kind of information in there. Matter of fact, the kid that lives in it is named Hunter. He's probably gonna be high. There might be some girl running around in there. All you got to do is go in there with about 50 grand. He'll go find the file for you.
I've seen naked pictures of Hunter Biden, I think, and yeah, there's not a whole lot that guy's trying to hide from anybody.
You can't unsee that.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And so Tim, look, I am all for First Amendment, and frankly, one of the criticisms of TikTok is that the type of social media is lowering the intelligence of some of their, of the users, and that China itself has imposed, I think it was 40-minute limits on how much a single person in China can look at TikTok. So I think there's some concern about the mental effects that this is having upon young people. Now, but with that said, I'm a little less sympathetic with that. I mean, if you want to be stupid and you want to numb your brain, then so be it. But if it's the Chinese trying to steal financial data on Americans so that they can exploit it,
I think
how do we know
if a communist regime could collect data, whether it be banking data, credit card data, whatever you call it, in order to enrich themselves financially, I think they would do it. I don't trust China. I don't trust the Communist Party of China. I don't trust the Communist Party of Russia. I don't trust the Communist Party of Venezuela. I don't trust the Communist Party in Cuba. I don't trust any communist regime. They would absolutely steal our banking information, and they will steal from American citizens. So the answer is this TikTok thing, it's owned by the Communist Party. It should be banned. That's the answer.
And what I will say is one last point on this is what I do know is if we ban TikTok, an American company or a British company or a European company will create an alternative.
That's fine.
That will take place, which is great.
It's already there. It's called Instagram. There's Reels.
Yeah,
there's called YouTube.
So
TikTok is
about limiting free speech. Yeah, this is about
moving along. Okay, the war.
Let me get my point out.
Okay.
I just don't understand why you guys don't see the importance of TikTok. I don't understand. How are the kids of America going to understand that it was Martin Luther King that freed the slaves? Without TikTok. I mean, come on.
Okay. Yeah, because it says so on TikTok. It says so on TikTok. Okay, now, the war in Ukraine is still raging.
My ship is fixed.
Okay, good. It's good. Okay, you're not in outer space anymore. That's good. Okay, all right. The war in Ukraine is still raging. There are estimates that the United States of America has directly funded or indirectly funded between $50 and $100 billion already.
Yeah, what are you, Richard?
Already. Between $50 and $100 billion. Meanwhile, we have American towns such as Jackson, Mississippi, with no water, and they estimate the local authorities there in Jackson, Mississippi, estimate they're not going to have water for 2 more weeks. So I ask you, Richard Sheffield, should we be spending billions of dollars in Ukraine when we've got people in our own country without water?
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that on just real quickly on the water topic, when Katrina hit, which is a true natural disaster, George Bush was completely skewered by the media on the way he responded. But meanwhile, not only Joe Biden, but look in Troy, Michigan, where drinking water has been polluted for years. And again, you've got lack of investment in American infrastructure, 100%. We should be spending money on that type of thing, bridges, roadways, all those sorts of things. Now, I do think there's an argument to be made, a pretty good one, that Russia has the intent, at least with its current government, has the intent of taking over the Baltic states, and potentially
That would be scary.
and bringing Poland into this. And I think Poland sits on the border of Belarus. If Belarus invades and joins the fight, Poland could very easily jump in, and all of a sudden it really is a hot war with NATO.
Well, Belarus is already in Putin's back pocket, right? I mean, they're for all practical purposes already part of Russia already. So if they took Belarus, I don't think anyone's going to cry over that. But the Ukraine thing, people are very sensitive towards it. However, Chris Pendarvis, what is the probability on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no way, 10 being an absolute, that a large, significant portion of this money we're sending to Ukraine is just going to end up in the back pockets and mansions in Switzerland and fancy cars and a lifestyle for a handful of Ukrainians?
Could you buy a Corvette with that? I think you can.
I don't think they can pocket take.
With that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that, Ukraine is one of the most massively corrupt countries on the planet, right? I mean, that's generally accepted. So is this money, is a large portion of this money just going to go and make some of these Ukrainians just extravagantly wealthy?
I don't know, but what I'm wondering is, what is the Democrats' motive for pushing this thing so much? I don't understand. Because, well, listen to what the stupidity of this is. Europe was energy independent. They didn't need Russia. Neither did we when Trump was the president, because we got our own oil, our own gas. We had stuff going everywhere. It was great. Biden comes in, shuts it down. And then Germany started buying their oil from Russia. So they set it up where this was going to happen. What's their damn motive? Why did they do? Why? It can't be because of global warming. It's got to be that, one, they're stupid. The corruption, of course, but there's another motive there. Like, did they want?
Do you think the motive is energy related? You think the motive is energy related?
No, I think they're just idiots when it comes to energy, and this caused this to happen. But there's another motive of why they would allow it to keep going, which I don't know what that is. I don't know if they want a third world war so they can bring everybody down and rebuild. I don't know. These people are crazy enough to do that. We have terror. Did you realize all the terrorists that we're catching on the border? They don't care. They don't care if people have diseases and we get sick. They don't care.
What I think is true, it is true in the global scheme of things, is Russia and China have been dancing together very, very closely for the last, 5 years, 10 years, and
longer than that.
Yeah, well, but very, very closely in the last.
I've been making out lately.
Yeah, I mean, the last 5 to 10 years, you've had like a lot more joint military exercises in the Pacific, and I think what's true here is that a weakened and impotent Russia makes China weaker as well. For one thing, China doesn't have any energy resources to speak of; they just don't. And so, if Russia is taken out and/or the government can be replaced with a more Western-friendly government, then China is, to a large degree, set back another probably 10 years from where they have been. So I think that could be part of what's in play here. In the meantime, there are a lot of people getting rich off of selling weapons, that's for sure. And part of the argument is whether or not the U.S. armories are being depleted to the point where it makes war with China a dangerous proposition more than it already was. Because,
hey, but don't worry, we've made the Army non-binary now, so we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some studies that have come out in the last few months about the U.S. has weakened its arsenal to the point where it starts to raise some concerns about the weapons that be available to fight the Chinese. Now, you might say those are largely based in Europe, and a Chinese war would be pretty quick one way or the other, mostly naval, but nonetheless, I think part of it could be that we want to weaken Russia to have an effect on China.
Okay, so with China, the main threat is the confiscation of all those semiconductor chips in Taiwan, correct? I mean, isn't that when people talk about a Chinese threat? Sure, there's the TikTok thing, you know, taking our data and so forth. But it comes right down to it. If they control 90% of the semiconductor chip manufacturing, that's it. Game over. They control pretty much the world. So what?
Go ahead.
Hang on, Chris. What's the probability, Chris, that China invades Taiwan in the next 3 years?
If they want to do it, they can do it. But
do you think they will?
They probably will. You know what? See, Richard wasn't saying this was his opinion. He was just telling you what he was seeing. But I agree with that. It's just, I don't think that would have been the best way to make Russia be. You see, they were less powerful when everybody was getting their energy from us.
Well, that's true. I agree with you.
They would not have had the money or the power to just invade Ukraine while everybody's getting their energy, including Germany, from us. Joe came and cut that off and then basically encouraged the war. So I'm like, why? You can't. Why would you do that? Oh, that's right. He's a freaking moron.
Well, I would say too, Tim, in addition to the semiconductor argument, which is very serious and very true, there's also the South China Sea, in that area of commerce where $3.4 trillion a year of American trade goes through that area. And if China controls that part of the Pacific as well, that also could be a massive choke point for U.S. trade with countries like India.
Well, they already do.
Australia.
I mean, they already do. We have become so dependent on Chinese manufacturing. I mean, at the top of the list is our medicine. I mean, something like 85% of our medicine comes from China. So we got. I mean, it's kind of hard for us to live day to day without our meds. So
yeah,
they already have control of our medication. They're about to get control of the semiconductors.
And yeah. It doesn't matter what production it is. We'll never be able to compete with them because they use slave labor. You know, children, LeBron James, you know, that's what they do. They use slave labor, Disney. So
Look,
we're not ever going to compete with them. So
40 years ago, when we were loving shopping at Walmart, and 30 years ago, when people like Bill Clinton were embracing the Chinese, that's, and the Bushes for that matter.
Oh, you're talking about Bill Clinton gave them satellite and laser technology? That was, thanks, Bill.
All right. Well, to lead us off to the next topic, I'm going to ask a couple questions and I'm going to give the answer. Richard, what is the probability and when would China make their move against Taiwan?
I think with from a scale of 0, meaning it just has guaranteed to not happen, versus 10 being a metaphysical certitude, as John McLaughlin would say, I think in the next 3 years, probably less than 30%. In the next 5 years, probably above 60%.
Fair enough. Pendo, what is your answer to that question?
No.
Now? Did you say now? Me now? You're close. The answer is,
well, we have viewers.
gentlemen, the answer is China's going to wait to see what happens in the 2024 election, and it's a Democrat, which it probably will be. They will invade Taiwan. That's the answer. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Okay, 2024 presidential run. Okay, so we've got some folks that have made some interest. Donald Trump, for one, has already declared he's running. Richard, I think you may have some insight on this, on the latest news on the next presidential run.
Did Santos? I mean, am I wrong? Did I hear that DeSantis is running?
DeSantis
I
is,
don't think he's announced.
he has not announced, but he apparently, according to news reports, Ron DeSantis has started taking even more concrete steps to sort of bring him into planning with the financial filing of documents, with the creation of committees with some of the key states. And and I think the sure tell sign of anyone running for office these days is that they have someone ghostwrite a book for them. So my suggestion would be watch out if Ron DeSantis actually publishes a book, because at that point,
or does a listening tour like Hillary did.
Yeah.
If you're listening to her, you're running,
A listening tour. Chris, do you think Ron DeSantis will run in 2024 against Donald?
I really didn't think he would. I really didn't. I thought he was going to wait, let Trump do it, then run. Or maybe run with Trump as vice president, then be president. But from what Richard just said, sounds like he's running.
Well, the other person this week who actually just stopped just short of saying that she was running, but kind of said she was running, was Nikki Haley, the ex-governor of South Carolina, who was on Fox News and has done some other interviews where she said that she was serious about it, that you don't need an 80-year-old to run the country, that it's new leadership, that and at the end of the interview, she said, "May the best woman win." So I think that Nikki Haley has
going up against Michelle Obama.
And that Indian woman.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see what develops, but everyone has to declare by the end of this year, correct?
It's not a rule, but I mean, practically speaking, you're going to see the field emerge. I think the real challenge will be,
because the primary starts in early 24.
It doesn't matter. You can run whenever you want as long as you're legally on all the state ballots.
You can run.
Yeah. But you have to get through a party's primary. And
Well,
primary begin in early 24.
But you don't have to start that way. You don't have to at all.
Yeah, but you do have to have. There are local laws, to your point, Tim, that you have to get certain numbers of signatures on petitions to appear on ballots. There are a number of things that have to happen
that be on the ballot.
That require the sort of the proverbial ground game. What I think would be interesting is whether or not the anti-Trump forces, which right now are in the minority, maybe in the Republican Party, whether or not they split their vote by having 2 or 3 anti-Trump or non-Trump candidates run, and then Trump, sort of just benefits from that, or whether or not they coalesce around one person and get behind a DeSantis or a Haley or whoever it might be.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see who emerges. Okay, so moving on to our I've got one more under the current events section. That is classified documents. Okay, so we had another person, Mike Pence, who apparently was either he reported it himself or was exposed of holding classified documents in his personal residence.
No, he was the one that called the place that keeps them, the archives,
National Archives.
What he did was, this is what he said. He said that with all this stuff happened with Trump and Biden, he said, "Dang, man, I better check mine," because he said we had boxes I never even checked that we were, with files. There could be, you never know. And he did find like just a few, which might not even be anything. They were just classified, that maybe they even forgot to declassify them. It might not be anything. But supposedly he's the one that called the archives and then told him he had something, then had his lawyers go through, check everything, and then they returned it. With Trump, they were locked in a safe by the Secret Service under 24-hour Secret Service protection. So when the left tries to say what Trump did was worse, and I'm thinking of Hunter Biden with a lemonade stand selling classified documents, but it's okay, they were next to the Corvette.
Right.
What? And not only that, why did Biden have them from when he was a senator? The
Well,
hell?
that's the $1 million question. But I think
See, a
now
vice
that
president and a
I
president.
think well, just a general, just kind of a general type of feeling here. I think that with all these people are now raising their hand, going, "Oh, I've got some too. Oh, I've got some too." It's kind of diluted the impact of the seriousness of having these so-called classified documents. What do you think, Richard?
You know, it all depends what's on the classified document, right? I mean, if we're
But
talking,
we'll never know. I mean, are we ever going to know?
well, someone knows. I mean, we won't know, but someone will know. I mean, the fact that they're classified, I would hope we don't know. But you know, but if they are talking about surveillance of Iranian nuclear sites, or talking about, you know, human intel coming out of Russia, those don't need to be sitting in you know, in Hunter Biden's crack house.
No.
On the other hand,
Hey, that's a crack mansion.
crack mansion that he's paying, as we talked about last week, paying, you know, what was it, $50,000 a month to rent from his dad. So it better be a mansion.
I mean, I mean, if that's not laundering money, I don't know what.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but it's but to your point, Tim, I mean, look, what's a secret to one person may not necessarily be like a national security secret, but what I will say is there has to be better. You can't have, you know, some moron like Joe Biden or even Mike Pence, you know, doing this. You've got to have, they need to be paying people to do a better job of governing these documents and securing the documents. Bottom line, I mean,
Yeah, that's the bottom line. I mean, it seems like there's definitely a security leak with all these.
But it's funny how they raided the one guy's house who had him in the most secure, best spot he could have him. You know, they knew that he had him. He knew that they had him. They've been, you know, Trump thought he could have him because he disclassified him. He had the right to do that. He was the president. Supposedly, supposedly they had to do with that Crossfire Hurricane thing. And if that's the case, I'd want to hold on to him too, because they could come in and destroy them and go, look, he was lying the whole time. Screw that.
I think we don't know yet. And look,
you're right.
I am no fan of the deep state. Trust me. But you know, I will say something else that came out this week, and it's not something we plan on talking about. Was the in terms of conspiracy theories, was the body cam footage on the Nancy Pelosi, Paul Pelosi attack at the Paul Pelosi house, right?
Oh, so what's the inside on that?
I was one who thought there was smoke and there had to have been fire when there's, you know, some dude, and I think, remember, there were rumors of a second man in the house apart from the hammer wielding man. And as it turned out, there was a dude that busted his way into Paul Pelosi's house looking for Nancy Pelosi and then whacked the crap out of Paul Pelosi with a hammer in front of the police. So I think that the video footage, I think, vindicated and validated the stories that Paul Pelosi had, and that it all checked out. I mean, the video footage, the body cam footage from the police clearly show Paul Pelosi nervously opening a door, and frankly, the 911 footage or the recordings show Paul Pelosi trying to drop massive hits to the 911 operator, who was clearly about as bright as a 5-watt light bulb, because she was not. She's like, "Oh, is everything okay there?" And he's like, "Well, yeah. Well, you know, there's my friend here with me, and it, you know," and the 911 operator's like, "Well, in that case, then, so you don't need an ambulance, do you?" And he was like, "Well, not right now, I don't." But and anyway, this 911 operator was.
In other words, send the police immediately. Something weird's happening.
I could not have done a better job of hinting to a 911 operator. My own hope is that if I ever have to do that, that the 911 operator is brighter than this lady, because yeah. So anyway, all that to say is Paul Pelosi got his head whacked in with a hammer. It was a brutal attack. You could see the video. It's online, and doesn't make me a fan of Paul and Nancy Pelosi. And Paul Pelosi still had DUI footage that he doesn't want to release, but
want to release this either.
Yeah,
well,
that adds conspiracy.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay, so we all can clap for the Pelosi's. Okay, way to go. Okay,
hold on, I got something to say.
Oh,
It is still suspicious. It could be exactly what they're saying. It could be, very much. But when the cops are standing there, when the cops, Joe Biden was coming by, you know.
Yeah.
When you open the door and you've got both of you were holding the hammer, you open the cops are standing right there. He should have said, "Get him." Not,
Yep.
oh,
No. That's a good point. I guess.
it could be
But,
exactly.
hey, but Pendo, when you're under duress and you might be kind of held hostage
Right.
or whatever, you know, you don't know how you might react.
My argument is for people to wonder and question. I'm sorry, there were questions. You know, I mean, we had a valid right to think those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because there's a lot of people who supposedly have said they well, not a lot, about 2 or 3 that witnessed the Paul Pelosi wreck. They said they thought that was the guy that was in the car with him. Remember how there were reports that there was another person in the car that ran off? A lot of people said he looked like the guy. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if all this stuff was as innocent as they say, release the damn footage. They fought to not release that.
That was odd that the San Francisco, I don't know if it's the prosecutor's office or the San Francisco government, did not want to release that footage because they said it would feed conspiracy theories. If anything, I think it put those to rest, and it just goes to show that people that are running the San Francisco government are just, again, idiots.
I still think it was. This is what I think happened. I think he wanted his drugs or his sex. He called the guy over, changed his mind, wouldn't let the guy in, broke in. You know, this is too many. I don't believe what they said. I'm not believing what they said. The video does show mostly what they were saying, but there's still questions, and we have a right to think something weird happened here. Because obviously, Paul Pelosi loves getting hammered. And come on, that was fun. No, come on. Come on.
Okay.
Flat for that one.
So transitioning over to our arts and culture section. So Pendo, you say you have some news on Harry and Meghan?
Well, not really. Meghan's still a bit. And Harry's still an idiotic doofus.
Now, Harry just came out with a book, right?
Yeah, it was called "I'm an Idiot, and I'm going to put my family down, and I'm going to make it to where nobody's ever going to have a conversation with me because I might put it in a book."
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, so we have a little situation here with an OnlyFans model. Okay. You're familiar with OnlyFans. It's like the fastest growing. It's one of the fastest growing apps in the world. There's estimates there's 175 million subscribers. Here in America, there's about 2 million models, that go on there. But we have a Florida mom that's suing a school district over her OnlyFans account. And what she's suing for is someone is taking pictures of her and they weren't paid for and spread them all over this county school system email system. And she's upset about it. So there you go. So I ask you, Richard, does she have a leg to stand on here? I mean, you're
obviously she's got a couple.
You're supposed to pay to look at these pictures. Someone screenshotted these pictures and sent them all over this email system for free, and people got to look at her pictures for free. Does she have a case here?
Well, her nickname I just read was Snooks. She's
guilty.
Yeah.
Her name is Snooks. She's out.
If you have a nickname like Snooks, you kind of get what's coming to you. And you know what? The moral of the story is don't pose nude and then sell people the images, right?
And then be a teacher.
And then be a teacher.
Yeah, but her point was I don't think she was a teacher. I think somehow it was her child's school, and somehow someone got her pictures.
You're right.
Sent all over the child's school. But the point is, you're supposed to be able to pay for those pictures instead of looking at them for free.
She's a volunteer, and and so I'm reading that they apparently were banning her from being a volunteer because of this being a hobby of hers. Her quote is, quote, "I was a little bit in shock, honestly. You're already in that situation, but it's not fair to begin with. And now images are being sent out not only within each other, but also to the media. Snooks, you shouldn't be shocked." I'll just put it that way. You shouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, is there any grain of sympathy that goes out to this woman, Pendo?
No, if you're a volunteer, they don't really owe you a damn thing. You're a volunteer. They can decide who they want to be a volunteer or not. They can come up with any reason they want. They can say, you know what?
But do you feel badly? Do you feel badly that these people got to see her pictures for free when they should have gone on and subscribed and paid for them?
Well, it's not fair. I mean, they got free pictures.
Okay.
We are a culture, I will tell you this, and kind of tying back into another thing that for years became free. It desensitized people to the notion of owing money to anything online. When you could download music, all the music you wanted to, and not pay a penny to the artists for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
I know what happened. I know what happened. The administrators of the school were fans of hers and paid for it, and they were pissed off that these little kids get pictures for free. Fired.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
I don't know. I don't know if I would.
Should the artists have their music listened to for free and not paid for? You know, on Spotify.
That Metallica predicted all this and said.
I remember having this conversation with younger people in my family 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where I would talk about, you know, how I would buy albums, and they would just look at me like I was an idiot. And they literally, one of my nieces said, "What are you paying for music for?" You know, and so I think that
that's an art form.
That's probably now what these people look at someone like us and say, "What are you paying for pictures for?" You know, I think that's probably the attitude.
This OnlyFans thing has a way of creeping up to kind of, you know, be not so positive in our society. I mean, you have 2 million models that are now displaying themselves on OnlyFans in this country. That's a lot. That's a lot.
The odds are that there are people doing that I know. I don't know of any, but if it's 2 million women in America doing it, then that's a pretty high percentage. And I would imagine that there's probably people I know.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's someone that you know that's connected to that, whether it's their daughter, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, you know, someone you know is directly connected to someone on OnlyFans. I can pretty much guarantee that. Right off the top of my head, I know two people that are on it. One, a friend of mine's niece is on it. She makes a lot of money on it. Another friend of mine's fiance's good friend is on it. She's making a lot of money on it. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about one model got on there, made $1 million in 1 hour.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that.
Wow, I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing. You've got girls making, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month. I mean, just regular girls are no one famous. They're just on there.
Can I just identify as a hot chick?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a hot chick, you can make thousands of dollars a month on OnlyFans and not have to go to work, not have to, you know, you just picture yourself. And so anyway, that's what's going on with OnlyFans. Now, sports. Okay, we've got the NFL playoffs today. We've got the 49ers and the Eagles, and we've got the Bengals and the Chiefs. Any predictions, Richard Sheffield?
It's hard not to pull for the San Francisco quarterback. You know, he's yeah, I mean, he was a really poorly drafted rookie. Seems to be he's the anti-Colin Kaepernick, you know, person coming out of San Francisco. He seems to be a God-fearing, pro-American guy, and as you know, it's hard not to pull for that guy. So I think I'm pulling for San Francisco to upset the Eagles. Probably not going to happen, but you never know. And then you know, you're probably talking about yet another trip to the Super Bowl for Kansas City, which.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the non-binary, gay, drug-ridden San Francisco is going to be cheering for a white supremacist? Is that what you're telling me?
He's being cheered for by San Francisco. Yeah.
Does he love America? I think he does.
I've
White
seen him put his hand over his heart during the.
White supremacy.
Yeah, he's put his hand over his heart during the national anthem. He loves God and has thanked the Lord for his success and
Son of a bitch.
So he's like I said, the typical anti-California hero, but it will maybe help San Francisco to pull for this guy.
I mean, if they saw this guy in a bar, they'd beat his ass. But because he's the quarterback for the team, it's, yay, we're gonna get a Super Bowl. I love him.
I like Jalen Hurts. I've always liked him since he was a quarterback at Alabama. I think the Eagles are going to beat the 49ers. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Chiefs. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to see Joe Burrow with a Super Bowl ring. I think the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl.
Tim. Is the quarterback for the Chiefs injured?
No.
I thought they said he was going to be playing like his leg. I thought they had a high ankle sprain.
I think he's starting the game, isn't he, Richard?
No, he's going to start, but not quite at 100%.
He might be a little gimpy. Might be a little gimpy, but
you only have to be an inch off.
I hope he finishes. He's a heck of a quarterback. That quarterback for the Chiefs. He's
hurt. So I didn't know what the
he might be a little gimpy. I guess we'll have to see. Also in the news, Stetson Bennett got arrested in Dallas, Texas. Not a good look, huh, Richard?
It's not a good look. I think Stetson Bennett is potentially sort of dropping. Did I freeze up on you guys?
No. Yeah, you did.
I think Stetson Bennett has sort of shades of Johnny Manziel going on, but but let's see what happens. I think maybe he's just had a bad couple of weeks, and so we'll sort of check and see what kind of sort of natural sort of outcome of this comes about. Maybe he's just having a good time celebrating.
It's a chance that, like you said, he's been on this 2-year run and he hasn't been able to do anything or say anything, and he's all this, and then he does all this, and he probably just exploded, having to hide it in for a couple of years and just couldn't hold it in,
Yeah, what he was arrested for wasn't that bad. It's just kind of bad, like public intoxication. I mean, so he was intoxicated. I think he was banging on some doors, or someone near him was banging on some doors or something like that. And someone called the police, and I don't know where he was, like in a hallway or something, I guess. And they arrested him, public intoxication, being drunk in public at like 6 o'clock in the morning, which is
what it sounds
early, kind of early to be drunk, right?
Sounds like somebody either gave him the wrong address or he went to the wrong address, thought he knew somebody in there or whatever. That's what it sounds like. And he had the wrong place. They call.
I'll give him the benefit of a doubt. Let's just say he's having a bad couple of weeks and getting ready for the NFL draft soon. And, but I do think he needs to, you kind of, if he's taking the NFL draft seriously, he should be going to bed at 10 o'clock at night and doing some sit-ups or something.
He needs to take a walk in space.
He's still a damn good dog.
Oh, I love the background, Richard. That's cool.
I just painted this.
Oh yeah, Richard.
Wow! I didn't notice. I thought it was a photograph. Did you paint the arm too? On the hand and all that.
The LSU quarterback getting picked up.
That's good. I like that.
And that lineman was pretty nice just to pick him up instead of tackling him to the ground, which is what he could have done.
He was just being polite.
Jalen Carter was just looking out for him.
Jalen Carter. Okay. Does anybody have any other last thoughts or comments before we sign off?
I would tell if you like the artwork, if you've liked the artwork that I've displayed in my background, I would say to the 12 people that are watching this podcast or videocast is Sheffield Art House on Instagram before the American Congress bans it.
Good art. It's good art. I will plug that. It's good art.
Oh, it's freaking awesome. I love it.
So Pendo, when did you go
Hard
Cyclops
Big
on?
art.
Cyclops on us?
You have an eye for art, Chris.
Well, actually,
A big eye.
Tim ought to buy one from you. I'm serious, dude. Put it
I've
down.
tried to buy art from Richard. I can't get him to. I can't get it.
I
His stuff is in that demand. It's in that demand.
Tim is next in line.
Richard.
I want that dog. That dog thing, like the other background you have.
Yeah, that is cool.
Okay. All right, guys. Until the next episode of Insanity Island, it's insane.
Crazy.
Show us the little girl.
I don't know any little girl. Whoa!
Where's the little girl?
What are you talking about?
The little girl.
I don't know.
Where is she? You're going away for a long time.
I don't know.
There's the little girl.